that has literally nothing to do with the rest of the video. I'm just filming this like a week before the virtual DLC drops for Devil May Cry 5 on PC, and I'm just really fucking hyped.
Smoke is sexy style!
Game genres are a lot like assholes. Everybody has a favorite. Now, personally, my favorite is Don Cheadle's little puckered beauty. But when it comes to game genres, I gotta hand it to the RPG. So I figured, fuck it, let's talk about why this is. I need to make content! Now before I can really go any further, I think I kinda have to state the obvious. RPG is a really broad genre. An exceptionally wide asshole, as it were. It covers your action RPGs. It covers your JRPGs. It covers your tactical RPGs. It covers your roguelike RPGs. So on and so forth. There are so many RPGs, holy shit! Each of these subgenres feel completely distinct from one another, but tend to still fall under the RPG umbrella. You see what I did? I made an umbrella with my hands. But I'm over the umbrella, so that doesn't fucking... But they all still fall under the umbrella term RPG because they tend to focus on very similar core mechanics. So I figured the best way for me to talk about why I love the broader concept of what an RPG is would be for me to talk about these overarching aspects that I personally really enjoy, and then later tie them back together into one central point. Kind of like branching narratives that ultimately converge back into the same storyline. Do you see what I did there? I am very smart! Now obviously not every RPG is gonna have every element that we talk about here, and because so many games like to borrow RPG elements, these mechanics are hardly exclusive to the genre anymore. But they are all still tropes that I generally associate with the modern RPG genre, and I feel like most people watching will as well. Now, with that being said, you could make a game that's literally nothing but character creation, and if it's extensive enough, I could play for hours and enjoy myself the entire time. I never actually finished Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, mostly because every time I planned to pick it back up, something else that I was way more hyped for dropped, and it just kept falling to the wayside. But one thing that always stuck with me from the short amount of time I did spend on it was its character creation. Largely just because it was free enough that I was allowed to bring this frumpy bitch into existence back when I streamed on YouTube and looked like a baby man.
I hate your face, but I love it at the same time. God, that smile.
I can't believe I used to think that overlay actually looked good. Sweetie, what is you doing? Funny enough, I was actually reminded about that playthrough a few years later when my friend Keem started streaming through it himself, because it turns out the game lets you use your friend's minions.
What the hell? That looks like a freeze spawn link if I've ever seen it. Oh my god, you are terrifying.
You see, the game not only lets you create your own character, but it even lets you create a custom companion that'll just follow you out throughout the game, and I made a beautiful creature named Doopy McRev. God bless that woman. I think she was a woman. God, I make some cursed shit with character creators, what the fuck? But that's part of the fun for me when I get to choose what a character looks like. I love pushing the customization options as far as they will let me go. I love getting to choose how I present myself in a game. Do you want to look like a muscular badass that could probably kick through a fucking brick wall? Go for it. You want to be some slender elf girl that looks like she could probably be some racist Twitter rando's profile picture? Hell yeah, you can do that. You want to be whatever this fucking shit is? Hey, listen, the game's not gonna judge you. I mean, I will, but even outside of the dumb shit I like to make, character creation is just pog as fuck. Getting to actually shape your character based on your personal preferences honestly makes it way easier to feel immersed in a game. I mean, so long as the options are actually extensive anyways, not just like, pick a face. Some people like to try to recreate themselves to act as a sort of self-insert to help them feel more immersed in the game. Some people like to just create brand new characters that they've come up with to sort of role-play with the experience. Some people like me like to just fuck around. Ultimately, I almost sort of view it the same way I view, say, audio or gameplay settings. You know, you're tailoring the experience to your preferences. Do you want to have subtitles? Fucking slap on some subtitles. Do you want more of a challenge? Fucking crank up the difficulty. Do you want to look like this fucking thing? Okay, fine, sure. Look like that thing. Customize your character. Oh, and speaking of customization, one of the core aspects associated with RPGs is the concept of leveling up your character through gameplay, and generally that comes with a system for allocating points towards increasing your capabilities with specific gameplay mechanics or unlocking new abilities entirely. For example, let's say you're playing Skyrim. So you're going through the tutorial and it's teaching you about swordplay and archery and sneaking. Ooh, look at you sneaking up on that bear. Aren't you a sneaky little snake? Let's say you didn't like any of that, but you know what? You still want to play because hey, you know what? that dragon shit looks pretty cool. Well then, may I introduce you to other ways of killing people, like setting them on fire, or conjuring creatures to kill them for you, or setting them on fire. The game has a myriad of different ways you can play and plenty of skill trees that you can go down to fit your preferred playstyle. Want to get some easy money by breaking into some dude's house and stealing all his shit? Invest in lockpicking and just walk right in. Want to be able to properly heal yourself in battle without having to use items? Invest in restoration. Want to just fucking play the game on easy mode? Just invest in stealth and archery. Holy shit, you will never have to get into an actual fight again. What the fuck? There's a reason they meme about that shit. Holy hell. One of the best ways to make sure a player feels invested in an RPG is to make sure they have plenty of freedom to choose how they tackle obstacles and enemies, and to have a system in place that allows them to improve upon their preferred playstyle as time goes on. If you as the player just want to run around and hit people with a fucking club, why would you care about leveling up if the game just decides, well, for this level up, we're gonna let you move a little bit faster while sneaking. Yay! No, that would be fucking dumb. Just let the player choose +1 bonk damage because that's what they want. Now, if you don't mind, I need to hop right onto this segue because speaking of choosing, I once tweeted out that Divinity Original Sin 2 is probably the most fun RPG that I will never finish, and yeah, I stand by that. The reason I've never finished it is because every single group I've ever joined to play through it inevitably falls apart. Kind of like my relationships. Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. But I still consider it to be one of my favorite RPGs of the past decade or so because even though I've only ever gone through that fucking starter island, the amount of ways you can choose to go through this game is fucking staggering. Even the very first section on the starter island, Fort Joy Ghetto, has plenty of ways you can choose to go through it. You can go to a waterway under the fort and escape on some kid's boat. You can fight this creepy fuck in the dungeon and escape through the sewers. If you're so inclined, you can just fucking kill everyone and force your way out. And it obviously goes well beyond just choose your way out of this dump. You can pretty well fuck yourself over depending on what you choose to do while you're playing. Let's say you've made a sneaky rogue boy and you like to run around pickpocketing for goodies. Alright, cool. Easy way to get some cash or get some items you don't really have the money for right now. But uh-oh, now you're being questioned by the lady you just stole from. Better try to talk your way out of this. Oh me, oh my, you failed. And guess what? That was the only person in the entire ghetto who sells scoundrel skills, and now you gotta kill her to survive. Cool and good. Hope you already got everything you want from her because now you're stuck without new skills until you find the next person who sells them. You choose what to do and when to do it, and depending on how things go, the consequences could either work in your favor or be really uh-oh stinky. This encourages actually thinking about your next move and weighing the risks versus rewards when deciding, would murdering that sick woman in the tent be worth it? I mean, it's certainly the moral thing to do. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic and she isn't even wearing a mask. She's just running around coughing on everything. Are you fuck it, this is for the public health. And look at that, I made another decision with consequences. I chose to start filming in my trash can. The consequence of that decision is that now my shoes are soaked with what I hope is water. I'm just gonna tell myself it's water. Now you may be wondering to yourself, SystemFreez, where are you gonna put the gameplay? There's no green screen behind you. And to that I say, that's called being a genuitive bitch. Is it optimal to take a character who's clearly meant to serve as a tank and turn him into your main healer? Nah, not really, but you can do it. Is it smart to choose the clearly weaker gun in Fallout 4 just because you think it looks cooler? Nah, but you know what, hey, I respect people who value aesthetics. Does it even make sense to go into a high-level dungeon and darkest dungeon with a team full of nothing but antiquarians and just keep spamming the dodge buff over and over? When it comes to RPGs, they generally have two different ways they can go about structuring their stories. Some, like, say, Final Fantasy VII, have a very linear and set-in-stone story that the player can't influence in any way, shape, or form. Others, like Fallout, have more of a branching narrative where the players can actually influence how the game ends. And personally, I prefer the latter. Now, don't get me wrong, there's obviously nothing wrong with an RPG having a linear story. Final Fantasy VII is widely regarded as a classic, and it deserves that title. Even setting aside its solid gameplay and its fantastic music, the story is very well written and well presented, especially for its time. But there's something truly special about being able to make decisions that actually alter a game's story. I think my favorite example of this is Dragon Age Origins. Let's take a look at one of the storylines you have to go through on your quest to gain enough military support to take on the Darkspawn, the political dispute in Orzammar. Let's say this is your first time playing the game and you decide you want to play as a city elf for your first playthrough. Alright, cool. So you start the game, go through your origin story, fight in the Battle of Ostagar, and then begin the long process of using your Grey Warden treaties to gain enough military aid from the different factions in Ferelden to take on the Darkspawn hordes. So you get to Orzammar looking for help from the dwarves, only to discover that their king has recently died. Good. Down with the monarchy! USA! USA! Now, There are two people trying to take the throne, Lord Balin and Lord Harrowmont, and neither of them can help you until you help them take the throne. Oh God. Oh fuck. Politics. In my video games. Why do SJWs gotta ruin my only personality trait? Wait, never mind, it's okay. This game doesn't have a really muscly woman. Not political, we're fine. Okay, so who do you decide to support? Well, you know what? Let's do a little bit of roleplay, shall we?
I'll be Sans Undertale.
Now here we are in Orzammar, and we're beginning to learn just how fucked up things are for casteless members of Dwarven society. They're looked down upon by members of higher society, and they're actively barred from doing any sort of work that members of castes typically do, which means they usually have to resort to crime to get by. Oftentimes, this involves joining a criminal organization known as the Carta. On top of that, the reality is that Orzammar is basically dying. Not only are they failing to push the Darkspawn back further into the deep roads, they're struggling just not to lose more ground than they already have over the centuries. So things are looking pretty bad here. 2 stars on Yelp. Do people even use Yelp anymore? I don't fucking know.
Welcome to the first and only episode of Choose That King, the game show where SystemFreez chooses a king.
Now let's meet our 2 royal wannabes. Behind the left curtain, we have Prince Balin! This stunning bachelor wants to reform Orzammar's caste system and grant the casteless more rights, such as the right to join the military to fight off the encroaching Darkspawn hordes, and even wants to open up Orzammar to the surface world to expand trade! But the game pretty heavily implies that Balin here killed his brother to become next in line to take the throne, and seems to use some pretty underhanded tactics to try to sway the assembly. Man, what a little stinker. Am I right, fellas watching at home? I'm right. Aren't I right? Ain't he a stinker? Am I right? And behind the right curtain, we have Lord Harrowmont! This absolute stud muffin was asked directly by King Idukin to become the next king of Orzammar, and definitely did not kill his brother. Isn't that something, folks? But me, oh my, what is this? Harrowmont is also a traditionalist, which means he doesn't want to change anything, which means the casteless will continue to be treated as non-people, and Orzammar will continue to be as isolated from the surface world as possible. Oh gee whiz, folks, which one will our beautiful little elf twink choose? Lord Balin! Congratulations, you dashing little scamp, you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in next week. Or don't. We only have a budget for 1 episode, so it doesn't really matter. Oh god, I hope I'm getting paid.
Although Balin is hinted to have killed his brother, the player has no real way of knowing that. It's just speculation, which very easily could have just been fabricated from Harrowmont's camp. After all, both sides do have propagandists working for them that are eager to run with anything they can get away with. All you know for sure is the players that one side seems to be willing to grant the casteless more rights while opening up Orzammar to outside trade, while the other one refuses to go against tradition. As someone from an elven alienage which is also highly poverty-stricken, it only makes sense to want to side with the guy who wants to help people whose only crime was being born from the wrong parents. And then once Balin gets elected, he immediately orders that Harrowmont be executed. Whoops. But fuck it, we've made our choice. What's done is done. Don't save scum, you piece of shit. After you finish the game, you're shown a series of slides that show the consequences of your various choices throughout your journey. And when your decision to support Lord Balin comes up, this is what it reads.
In Orzammar, King Balin quickly proved himself a reformer. Trade with the surface lands increased, and caste restrictions were loosened. The casteless were permitted to take arms against the Darkspawn in exchange for new freedoms. For the first time in generations, the line in deep roads was pushed back, and a few Thags were reclaimed. Balin's reforms quickly found him enemies within the warrior and noble castes, and after several assassination attempts, the assembly was dissolved. The king then ruled alone, some said as a tyrant, others said as a visionary determined to drag Orzammar into the modern world.
All in all, Seems like a pretty good ending. King Balin modernizes Orzammar and grants the castless opportunities that had been denied to them for no good reason for centuries. I mean, sure, he dissolves the assembly and basically rules as a dictator, but I mean, you saw what the assembly was like. They fucking suck, dude. Seems like maybe Balin truly was just a misunderstood hero of the people. Or at the very least, that's one perspective you could have. Let's rewind and try a different character with a different origin. How about a dwarven noble? Oh shit, look, you're one of the king's children. Well, fuck, maybe we'll get a good look at how Orzammar got in this mess, and Balin killed your brother. Fuck. So now you go through your origin, battle at Ostgar, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you're back. Now, why the fuck would you support Balin? This guy played your ass. He killed your brother, he framed you for it, he got your servant exiled, and now you know that your father on his deathbed was like, wow, my son Balin fucking sucks. Fuck Balin. All my homies fucking hate Balin. I'm supporting Harriman. So you go through the rest of the story, bada bing, bada boom, no ending for Orzammar.
In Orzammar, King Harriman found himself in a protracted battle against Balin's rebellion that left him unable to gain the stability he needed. The clan lords objected to many of his measures in the assembly, and only his efforts to increase the dwarves' isolation from the surface met with any success. In time, Harriman's health began to fail. Some claimed it was poison, while others said it was a flagging spirit. Either way, after a protracted illness, the king finally passed away. The wrangling in the assembly for a successor began almost immediately.
Oh! That's fun. Your decisions, not just in Orzammar, but all throughout Ferelden, practically decide the whole future of the country. Sometimes your decisions work out for the better, sometimes they don't. Hell, even the very first decision you make matters. Choosing your origin story. It doesn't just influence certain stats and dialogue options, it even influences how you view the people you meet, the factions you meet, the different issues you have to resolve. Holy shit, Dragon Age is so fucking good! You can't replicate that feeling with linear stories. You just can't. That sense of freedom and control only happens if you get to genuinely impact the events of the game's story. When you get to influence that game's world. A world that's full of people. People that might need your help. Perhaps with some sort of quest. I am so fucking good at these transitions. In my mind, the best RPGs tend to have pretty open worlds where you can more or less explore wherever and whenever you want. And often these worlds have NPCs with quests that you can choose to do that don't impact the main story, but also you don't have to do them. They're kind of like quests that are just like on the side, you know? Fuck, there's gotta be a name for these. Parallel quests. I hate to track things back to a game we've already talked about, but I feel like Skyrim is probably the best example of a game with side quests that are way better than the actual, like, main story. Holy shit, that final boss is so goddamn lame. Skyrim's open world is pretty pog, not just because it has plenty of towns and caves and dungeons for you to run around in, but also because these areas have a fuckload of quests that make you want to explore them. Now personally, my favorite in Skyrim has to be the Thieves Guild questline, which I'm not going to go into too much detail because holy fuck, I know this video is already way too long for what it is, but suffice to say, it's good. Lots of sneaking, lots of cool little twists. It's a pretty pog time. And this game is filled to the brim with plenty of other quest lines that are just as long, just as interesting, and just as fun. It also has plenty of little ones that you can just kind of breeze through for a nice little reward. But all of them, every single one, is optional. These people in these stories make the world feel far more alive than it would without them, but you are completely free to just ignore all of them. You could do every single quest you come across. You could do just the ones that seem really interesting to you. You could do fucking none of them and just run around punching giants in the dick. Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Dragon Age, all of these series have fantastic main storylines, but they're made far better by the presence of these side quests. And these side quests are made better by the fact that you don't have to do them. Hell, some of them you have to actively go out of your way just to find them. For example, in Oblivion, one of my favorite quest lines is the Dark Brotherhood. If you're a goody-goody good boy who doesn't like to break the law in any way, shape, or form, you are probably never going to come across this quest line. But if you're a stinky, stinky, bad, epic, but epic like in the game store way, not the epic which is very cool way, that was a really convoluted joke, and you decide, fuck it, I'm gonna murder a homeless man because he looked at me funny, you're gonna get this.
Your killing has been observed by forces unknown.
Ooh, spooky. That felt bad to do. And then the next time you sleep in a secure location, like say at an inn, this Emperor Palpatine cosplay enthusiast is gonna come up to you and boom! You get to start the Dark Brotherhood questline. You're now neck deep in an underground psychotic death cult. And you wouldn't have been if you hadn't been a stinky doo-doo and just dropped a can of whoop-ass on a sleeping dude's face. This questline feels really cool, not just because it's really well written, but because you chose to do something in a game and you were rewarded with an opportunity to go down this creepy-ass rabbit hole. And you chose to go down it. You fucking scamp? Are you getting the central theme of this video? Do you recognize the through line that's been painfully obvious in every single section? I'm talking about... In my personal opinion, video games are the greatest form of escapism that humanity has ever created. I know, very epic Reddit gamer take. Wholesome Keanu Chungus, I'm gonna give this video Reddit gold. And they do a better job of fulfilling that role as an escapist media by giving as much control to the player as possible, at least in my mind. Most of the games that have been able to suck dozens, hell sometimes hundreds of hours out of me have been RPGs, largely for that reason. I remember the game I easily spent the most time on as a kid was Dragon Age Origins. I played through that game so many fucking times growing up. I did at least one full playthrough for every origin story. I did a fucking full City Elf playthrough, I did a full Mage playthrough, a full Dwarf Commoner playthrough. Holy shit, I had a problem with that game. That sense of control and being able to actually influence the game's story really captured me as a kid, and honestly the same could be said about a number of different RPGs. And that right there is the crux of why I consider RPGs to be my favorite game genre. Hell, I imagine that sense of player control is a big part of why Dungeons & Dragons has remained so popular for so long. After all, what is D&D if not basically the ultimate RPG? Pretty much every element about it is determined by player decisions as well as the GM's ability to anticipate and respond to those decisions. I remember a few years back when I was playing a D&D campaign with my friend Steve and Mr. Brunswick. I won't go into too much detail, but I remember having a character named Spite that I just fucking loved. He was a tiefling necromancer that I'd written a whole ass backstory for. You know, there was a little bit of torture involved. He had a smidgen of a desire to enact brutal revenge on somebody. It was all around pretty pog. I mean, hell, because of the way he was bouncing off of Brunswick's character, I was ready for him to go through a whole ass character arc by the end of it. If we had finished it, hashtag #BrunsandSteep, please play games with me again. I fucking miss you. And every single thing about him was because of my decisions. I controlled his backstory. I controlled what skills he learned. I controlled what he did and said in any given moment. It was fun, just like all RPGs are. Or at least have the ability to be, if done right. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, if you choose to do so. Psych, that's not the actual outro. Wowee, what's this? A channel member. Oh, and what's this? Another channel member. That's pretty poggers. Man, to think it only costed them both $4.99 each to be compared to literal garbage in my epic YouTube video. Man, capitalism is wholesome Keanu Chungus. I'd give this video Reddit gold. Get me out of this fucking trash can.